The Galactic Security Scanner just classified a living being as Precursor-Class for the first time in 40,000 years. And she's asking the attendant if the delay means her connecting flight has complimentary refreshments. Security Chief Vexnala stared at her holographic display, mandibles frozen mid-click. The readout pulsed an angry crimson that shouldn't exist in the standard spectrum. Around her, every alarm system in Transit Hub Designation 794 screamed in 17 different frequencies, each one keyed to a different flavor of apocalyptic threat. The cacophony was supposed to be impossible. These systems were designed with redundancies specifically to prevent simultaneous activation. Yet here they were, all of them, at once. "Shut those down," Vexnala snapped at her subordinate, a young Kelthian whose chromatophores had gone shock white. "Now." "Chief, I can't. They're automated. They're—" The subordinate's voice cracked. "They're responding to the classification. Precursor-Class." The words burned on the display like a brand. Vexnala had worked transit security for 30 cycles. She'd seen smugglers, weapons dealers, diplomatic incidents, even one memorable case of attempted regicide. But this was beyond her training, beyond anyone's training, because Precursor-Class wasn't a real threat category. It was theoretical, historical, a cautionary tale embedded in scanning protocols 40 millennia ago by species so ancient their names existed only in archaeological databases. The human woman at Scanner Station 12 looked annoyed. "Is this going to take much longer?" she called out, her voice cutting through the alarms with the casual tone of someone asking about delayed luggage. "Because I've got a connection to make, and the food court closed 20 minutes ago. I'm operating on airplane coffee here, which is basically a crime against humanity." Vexnala's translator implant struggled with the idiom, crimes against humanity. The scanner results suggested this woman was humanity, or what humanity had descended from, or ascended to. The readings made no sense in any framework Vexnala understood. "Ma'am, I need you to remain exactly where you are," Vexnala said, modulating her voice to stay calm despite the primal terror clawing up her neural column. "Do not move. Do not touch anything. We're experiencing a technical situation." The human, Elena, according to her travel documents, rolled her eyes. Actually rolled them. A gesture that somehow conveyed both exasperation and humor simultaneously. "Technical situation, right. Look, I've been through security on 6 different worlds this trip. Your scanner's probably just glitchy. Want me to step through again?" "No." 3 security officers shouted it simultaneously. Elena blinked at them. "Okay, touchy. It's just a body scanner, guys. Just a body scanner." Vexnala's secondary hearts were palpitating. The scanner in question was a Nexus 7 biological classification array, capable of analyzing matter down to the quantum level, cross-referencing against 40,000 years of known biological signatures, and providing threat assessments accurate to 99.999997%. It had never failed. Not once in 400 centuries of continuous operation across 6,000 transit hubs. And it was currently insisting that the tired-looking human woman clutching a duty-free shopping bag was the same classification as the precursors. The precursors. The beings who had shaped galaxies like clay, who had written the fundamental laws of physics as casual experiments, who had vanished before most current species had evolved past single-cellular life. The things that haunted the dark spaces of every civilization's collective nightmares. "Chief." Thane materialized at her shoulder, his optical organs dilated to maximum aperture. A Helican fear response. As senior analyst, Thane had probably seen the readings from his office 3 levels up. "Tell me that's a malfunction. I've run diagnostics 4 times. The scanner's operating perfectly." Vexnala pulled up the biosignature data, her claws trembling slightly as she manipulated the hologram. "Look at this. Her cellular structure is... It's reading as simultaneously stable and unstable. Her DNA is rewriting standard biochemical principles, and this She highlighted a particularly alarming data cluster. Her brain activity is generating quantum fluctuations in local space-time. That's impossible. Yes, she's thinking and it's affecting reality? Apparently. They both looked at Elena, who had set down her shopping bag and was now scrolling through her communication device with one hand while drinking from a disposable cup with the other. She appeared to be reading something that made her smile. "What's she doing?" Thane whispered. "I think she's checking social media and drinking the last of some beverage." While reality bends around her thoughts, she seems unaware of it. Elena glanced up, caught them staring, and waved cheerfully. "Hey, seriously, how long is this going to take? My flight board's in 40 minutes, and I still need to find some actual coffee. This—" She shook the cup sadly. "This is not coffee. This is coffee-flavored regret." Vexanala's communication implant chimed with priority alpha designation. She answered with dread pooling in her ventral chambers. "Chief Vexanala." The voice belonged to High Administrator Kexthal, who oversaw the entire sector's transit operations. His tone carried the careful neutrality of someone trying not to panic. "I'm looking at telemetry from your hub. Confirm, do you have an active Precursor-Class reading?" "Confirmed, Administrator." "And the entity is contained?" Vexanala looked at Elena, who was now digging through her shopping bag, apparently searching for something. "The entity is present at Scanner Station 12. She's a human, tourist visa, returning home after vacation. She seems, how to phrase this, cooperative but confused by the delay." "She?" Kexthal's voice rose half an octave. "The precursor is female. The human is female, yes. Administrator, I don't think she knows what she is." "What she?" Kexthal made a choking sound. "Chief, activate full containment protocols. I'm contacting the Galactic Council, and for the Void's sake, don't let her leave the building." "Sir, the containment protocols are designed for precursor-level threats. They might—" "Might what? Fail to contain a being that can reshape reality with her thoughts?" "They probably will fail, Chief. Activate them anyway. At least we'll look like we tried when the species tribunals investigate why we let a precursor walk onto a commercial flight." The connection terminated. Vexanala looked at Thane, who looked back with an expression of shared horror. "Containment protocols," she said quietly. "The ones that haven't been updated since the First Age? Those would be the ones." "Chief, those protocols assume the precursor is hostile and aware of their capabilities." "I know. She thinks she's just late for her flight." "I know." Elena had found what she was looking for, a small bar of chocolate, which she unwrapped and bit into with evident satisfaction. As she chewed, the localized quantum fluctuations intensified by 0.003%. Chocolate made her happy. Her happiness was measurably affecting space-time. Vexnala activated the containment protocols with shaking claws. Invisible barriers of pure force energy materialized around Scanner Station 12, creating a hemisphere of containment rated to hold a small star. Warning lights shifted to deep violet. Emergency bulkheads began lowering across the terminal's major thoroughfares, and Elena, standing in the center of humanity's most advanced containment system, looked around with growing irritation. "Okay, what's happening now? Are we evacuating? Because nobody's announced anything, and I don't see any signs about—" "Wait." She walked forward, straight toward the containment barrier. "Stop!" Vexnala shouted. Elena stopped, but only because she'd reached the barrier. She pressed one hand against it, then knocked on it like testing a door. Are you guys seriously containing me? For what? I went through customs on Bellox Prime. Everything in my bag is legal." The containment barrier flickered where her hand touched it, then died completely, falling away like disrupted smoke. Thane made a sound Vexnala had never heard a Helican make before, something between a keen and a prayer. "The barrier failed," he whispered. "Precursor-class containment barriers don't fail. They're powered by zero-point energy. They're theoretically unbreakable." "Update your theories," Vexnala said numbly. Elena stepped through where the barrier had been, looking annoyed rather than awed. "Look, I don't know what's going on with your equipment today, but I'm going to miss my flight. Can someone just manually check? My bag. I've got coffee beans, some books, this chocolate. She held up the partially eaten bar. Everything's documented. The coffee beans, Thane said suddenly. Scan her luggage, full spectrum. Vex Nala directed the ancillary scanners at Elena's shopping bag. The results made her wish she'd chosen a different career, possibly on a different planet, in a different galaxy. The coffee beans are reading as reality-destabilizing artifacts, she said, her voice flat with disbelief. I'm sorry, what? Elena looked at her bag, then back at them. They're just beans, from a farm. On Deneb 4, they gave me a certificate of authenticity and everything. And the books. Romance novels, 3 of them. I like reading on long flights. They're radiating temporal distortions. They're books, words on paper. How can words distort time? The chocolate? Vexanala didn't want to look. She looked anyway. Quantum probability manipulation field, low grade but persistent. Elena stared at them. Then she started laughing. Genuine, bewildered laughter that would have been charming under any other circumstances. Under these circumstances, it caused the remaining active scanners to briefly register readings in imaginary numbers. You're telling me, Elena said between laughs, that my vacation souvenirs are some kind of cosmic threat. This is the worst airport experience I've ever had, and I once got detained for 6 hours because my shampoo bottle was 2 milliliters too large. Vexanala's implant chimed again. Priority Alpha, then Priority Omega, then a classification she'd never seen before, Priority Extinction. She answered, Chief Vexanala, this is Fleet Commander Dex Thari of the Galactic Defense Network. I have authorization to speak directly. We are receiving your scanner telemetry. Confirm the precursor entity is still at your location. Confirmed, Commander. The human quarantine protocols are now in effect for your entire star system. No ships in or out. I have 6 battle fleets en route to your position. Evacuation of the hub is beginning immediately. You and your staff are to maintain observation of the entity, but do not engage. Do you understand? Do not engage under any circumstances. Elena had stopped laughing. She was looking at the terminal around her, at the emergency lights, at the distant sound of evacuation announcements, at the security officers backing slowly away from her position. Wait, she said, her voice smaller now. You guys are serious? You actually think I'm dangerous? Vexanala met the human's eyes, brown, confused, and entirely too normal for something classified as a precursor. Ma'am, she said carefully, we think you might be the most dangerous thing in the galaxy, and we think you have no idea that you are. Elena set down her chocolate bar with exaggerated care, as if it might explode. Okay, let me get this straight. You think I'm some kind of ancient godlike being because your scanner went haywire? The scanner has not malfunctioned in 40,000 years, Thane said, his voice strained. It has processed billions of life forms across thousands of species. It has never produced a false reading. Well, congratulations. There's a first time for everything. Elena looked around at the emptying terminal, at the security officers maintaining their distance, like she was radioactive. Look, I'm just a barista. I make coffee for a living. I live in a studio apartment in Seattle. I have student loans. Does any of that sound precursory to you? Vexnala's translator struggled with precursory, but provided context through tone analysis, sarcasm, frustration, bewilderment, all very organic emotional responses. All happening while the quantum field around the human continued to fluctuate in ways that violated several fundamental laws of physics. Your profession and financial situation are irrelevant, Thane said. He was pulling up additional data now, his manipulators flying across holographic interfaces. What matters is your biological signature. You're not just human. He stopped, staring at new results. Chief, you need to see this. Vexnala moved to his console. The data made her stomach sack clench. She's rewriting local physics, Thane whispered. passively, unconsciously. The space around her is operating on slightly different physical constants than the space 10 meters away. It's subtle, but measurable. Gravity is 0.0001% weaker in her immediate vicinity. Light moves fractionally faster. Quantum probability collapses are happening in patterns that shouldn't exist. "In common, please," Elena called out. "Because I barely passed high school physics. You're changing reality just by existing," Vexnala said bluntly. "The universe operates differently around you than it does around everyone else." Elena laughed, a short, sharp sound of disbelief. "That's ridiculous. I can't change reality. I can barely change my oil." "Can you explain," Thane asked carefully, "why you survived on your homeworld?" "Survived? Earth isn't that bad. I mean, yeah, we have weather and some natural disasters, but your planet has a magnetic field that fluctuates unpredictably, tectonic plates that shift constantly, weather systems that generate forces capable of destroying structures, microorganisms that invade organic tissue, solar radiation levels that should cause mass extinctions. And yet humans thrive there. Humans evolved there. That shouldn't be possible. Other species evolved on planets too. Stable planets, gentle planets. Your world is classified as a Category 9 death world. Nothing should evolve sentience there. The fact that something did, that you did, suggests you're not operating under the same evolutionary pressures as other life. Elena opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. "So because Earth is kind of harsh, you think I'm a god? We think your species might be what the precursors became," Vexnala said quietly. "Or what they left behind. The signatures match too closely to be coincidence." "Oh, come on." "The coffee," Thane interrupted. He was staring at Elena's empty cup. "You said you need coffee. Why? Because I'm tired? Because coffee has caffeine? Why does anyone drink coffee?" "But what happens if you don't have it?" Elena shrugged. "I get headaches. I'm grumpy. I can't focus as well. It's called caffeine withdrawal. It's pretty common." Thane and Vexnala exchanged looks. "She requires a reality-destabilizing substance to maintain cognitive function," Thane said slowly. "Without it, she becomes unstable. I become sleepy, not unstable. And when you're sleepy, when your cognition is impaired, what happens to the reality fluctuations around you?" Elena stared at him. "How would I know? I can't measure quantum whatever you said." Vexnala checked the historical data from the scanner, scrolling back to when Elena first approached. The fluctuations had been higher then, notably higher. They decreased after she'd consumed the beverage. "The coffee stabilizes her," Vexnala breathed. "She self-medicates with reality-destabilizing artifacts to keep her own reality-destabilizing effects under control." "That's not, I just like coffee." An announcement echoed through the terminal in 12 languages. "Evacuation in progress. All personnel proceed to emergency exits. This is not a drill." Elena watched families hurrying past, security staff abandoning their posts, retail workers fleeing their shops. Watched them all giving her position a wide berth. "They're evacuating because of me," she said quietly. "Yes," Vexnala confirmed. "Because they think I might, what? Destroy the station? Accidentally, perhaps, without meaning to." Elena looked down at her hands, normal human hands, slightly tanned from vacation, nails painted a cheerful blue. "This is insane. I need a senior expert opinion." Vexnala's voice carried the weight of someone who'd already exhausted all reasonable options. "Get me someone from the archive." Thane's optical organs widened. "Chief, the archivists don't leave their worlds except for extinction-level events. I know. Make the call." 20 minutes later, a transport pod docked at the now empty terminal with emergency override clearance. From it emerged a being that looked like it had been alive since the universe was young, which, given archivist lifespans, might actually be true. Hicksvin moved with deliberate slowness, his crystalline body refracting the emergency lighting into prismatic patterns. "I was studying the formation wars," he said without preamble. his voice resonating like struck glass. "This interruption should be significant." "The scanner identified a Precursor-Class entity," Vexnala said. Hicksvin stopped moving. For a long moment, the only sound was the distant hum of evacuation procedures and Elena's annoyed sigh. "Show me." They walked to scanner station 12. Elena had given up standing and was sitting on the floor, scrolling through her device. She looked up as they approached. "Let me guess. Another person to tell me I'm secretly an ancient god. Because I've got to say, the divine powers are really underwhelming. Can't even get decent coffee in this place." Hicksvin studied her with sensors that predated most civilizations. His internal crystalline structure pulsed with bioluminescence as he processed data invisible to organic eyes. "The readings are accurate," he said finally. "She matches precursor biosignatures across 17 key indicators. Cellular regeneration beyond standard parameters. Neural architecture capable of quantum information processing. Passive reality manipulation through observation and intent. She is what we feared the precursors were." "Great, wonderful. Can I go now?" Elena stood up, brushing dust off her pants. "Because my flight is definitely gone, my coffee is definitely cold, and I'm about 2 more weird accusations away from a complete meltdown." "Please don't melt down," Thane whispered. "It's an expression. I'm not going to literally—" Elena stopped, staring at them. "You actually think I might literally melt down?" "Your frustration is causing measurable gravitational fluctuations," Hicksvin observed. "Small, but present. Your emotional state appears to affect local space-time geometry." Elena laughed, a slightly hysterical sound. "Of course it does. Why wouldn't it? Today's already been completely absurd. Sure, my bad mood affects gravity. Makes perfect sense." "Actually," Hicksvin said, "it does make sense, if your precursor descended." "I'm not—" Elena took a deep breath. "Okay. Explain it to me like I'm 5 years old. What exactly do you think I am?" Hicksvin gestured, and holographic displays materialized, showing ancient records. Star maps, biological data, archaeological evidence spanning millennia. The precursors were a species that achieved what we call reality manipulation capability. They could alter physical laws through focused intent. They shaped galaxies, created species, rewrote fundamental forces. Then, approximately 40,000 years ago, they vanished. Every trace of their civilization disappeared. We've been searching for answers ever since. And you think humans are, what? Their descendants? Or their final form? Or what they chose to become? Hicksvin's crystalline features somehow conveyed uncertainty. Your species appears on no evolutionary trees. Your homeworld shows signs of rapid ecological changes that correlate with human development. And now, here you stand, matching every biosignature we have for precursor life. That's circumstantial at best. Perhaps, but consider. Humans consistently violate probability. Your species survives situations that should result in extinction. You adapt to environments that should kill you. You create technologies that shouldn't work based on your understanding of physics, yet they function anyway. We're just stubborn, Elena interrupted. And lucky, and we drink a lot of coffee. The coffee, Vexnala said suddenly. Hicksvin, analyze the composition of Earth coffee. Hicksvin directed sensors at Elena's empty cup. The results made his crystalline body flash with colors that probably indicated alarm. This substance should be classified as a Class 4 psychoactive reality anchor. It contains compounds that interact with quantum fields. Consuming this regularly would ground someone's reality manipulation abilities, make them more stable, more normal. Elena stared at her cup. You're saying coffee is the only thing keeping me from accidentally destroying reality? Possibly keeping your entire species from doing so, Hicksvin confirmed. Elena sat down again, heavily. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Yet the evidence supports it. Then why don't we know? Why doesn't humanity know what we are? Hicksvin was quiet for a moment. Perhaps you forgot. Perhaps you chose to forget. Power of that magnitude can be terrifying. So let me get this absolutely straight. Elena stood up, pacing now, her frustration evident in every movement. The scanner reading spiked with each step. You're telling me that humanity, all of us, not just me, are the descendants of reality-warping super beings who decided to, what? Retire? Forget we had cosmic powers? Become normal? It's a theory, Hicksman said carefully, but it explains numerous anomalies we've observed about your species. Like what? Thane pulled up a data file that looked decades in the making. Humans have been traveling in the galaxy for approximately 80 years. In that time, we've documented 4347 instances of what we classified as human impossibilities. Situations where humans survived conditions that killed other species, where human equipment functioned despite violating known physics, where human determination somehow affected probability outcomes. We kept writing them off as flukes, Vexnala added. Statistical anomalies, but 4347 anomalies stops being coincidence. Elena stopped pacing. Give me an example. 3 years ago, a human engineer named Patricia was working on a deep space station when the life support failed, Thane said. She survived in hard vacuum for 47 seconds, long enough to reach an emergency shelter. That's impossible. Organic tissue should have died within 15 seconds. She got lucky. The station's fusion reactor was failing, critical meltdown imminent. The human, somehow, manually recalibrated the magnetic containment field while suffering from vacuum exposure and hypoxia. The mathematics required for that recalibration should have taken hours with a computer. She did it in 30 seconds by hand, while dying. She was desperate. People do amazing things when the reactor stabilized at the exact moment she lost consciousness. Hicksman interrupted. As if reality itself decided she'd succeeded. As if her intent, her determination to survive, overwrote the probability of failure. Elena was quiet for a moment. That's one example. We have 4,000 more, Vexnala said softly. Humans who walked away from shuttle crashes that should have been fatal. Human children who survived diseases that have no cure. Human explorers who found their way home despite impossible odds. Your species doesn't just survive, Elena. You refuse to accept failure on a fundamental, reality-altering level. That's just, humans are stubborn. We don't give up. That's not magic, that's culture. What if your culture exists because of what you are? Hicksman asked. What if human stubbornness, human determination, human coffee addiction, what if all of it evolved as a way to manage unconscious reality manipulation abilities? Elena sat down again, looking genuinely shaken. If this is true, and I'm not saying it is, but if it's true, why doesn't it feel like anything? Shouldn't I feel powerful or different or something? You've never felt anything else, Vexnala said. It's normal for you. Like breathing. You don't think about breathing, you just do it. So I'm casually warping reality with every breath? We all are to some degree. Hicksman said. Consciousness affects quantum observation, but humans seem to do it more. Stronger, with consequences that cascade into macro-scale effects. Elena looked at her hands again. This is too much. I just wanted to go home, drink good coffee, and get back to my life. Now you're telling me my life is a lie? That my entire species is living a lie? Not a lie, Hicksman said gently. A choice. Perhaps your ancestors chose to live normally, to experience existence without the burden of cosmic awareness. That would be very human, choosing peace over power. Or we're just coffee-addicted primates from a harsh planet, and your scanner is broken. Also possible, Hicksman admitted, though statistically unlikely. Vexnala's communicator chimed. The Galactic Council, finally. She activated the holographic link, and a dozen species representatives materialized in miniature. We've reviewed the data, the Council coordinator said. We need a decision. How do we proceed with the human? Elena looked at the assembled representatives, leaders of civilizations spanning the galaxy, all waiting for judgment on one tired barista who just wanted coffee. Let her go, Hicksman said. The council members erupted in simultaneous protests in 12 languages. Let me finish, HFY continued. Humans have been in the galaxy for 80 years. If they were truly dangerous, we'd know by now. They're not conquerors. They're not destroyers. They're just people. Unusual people, perhaps. But containing her, studying her, treating her as a threat, that might actually trigger the danger we fear. You're suggesting we ignore a Precursor-Class entity? I'm suggesting we reclassify. Humans aren't precursors. They're precursor heritage, a related but fundamentally different category. The Council deliberated for 17 minutes. Record time for a decision that would reshape galactic policy. Finally, the coordinator spoke. Motion carried. Human biosignatures will be reclassified as precursor heritage. New protocols to be implemented across all transit systems within 30 cycles. The human Elena will be released with formal apologies and compensation. Elena, who had been half listening while trying to find an open coffee shop on her device, looked up. Wait, I get compensation? Standard practice for wrongful detention, Vexnala said. She was already processing the paperwork, relieved this hadn't escalated to actual combat. You'll receive travel vouchers, priority boarding on all future flights, and free coffee? Elena asked hopefully. Complimentary lounge access, which includes refreshments. So yes to coffee. Finally, this day is looking up. Thane was staring at her with something between awe and confusion. You just learned you might be descended from reality-warping demigods, and you're happy about free coffee? Look, the demigod thing is too weird to process right now. Free coffee is concrete, achievable, within my understanding of the universe. Elena stood, gathering her shopping bag. So am I actually free to go, or is there going to be another emergency? You're free, Vexnala confirmed. Your original flight has departed, but we've booked you on the next available transport to Earth. It leaves in 2 hours. Gate 47. Great. Where's the lounge? I'll escort you, Thane offered. He seemed reluctant to let her out of observation range. Professional paranoia or genuine concern, Vexnala couldn't tell. As they walked through the terminal, staff were beginning to return, looking sheepish about the evacuation. Elena waved at a few of them. Sorry about the panic, she called out. Apparently I'm cosmically significant. Who knew? The staff looked terrified. Elena sighed. I'm joking, it's a joke. Humans joke when things are weird. She looked at Thane. Do other species not do that? Some do, but usually not about being precursor heritage. Well, if I don't laugh about it, I'll have an existential crisis, and according to your scans, that might be bad for local space-time. They reached the lounge. Elena's credentials now flagged her as priority Omega status, something usually reserved for diplomatic heads of state. The attendant took one look at the designation and immediately brought her a freshly brewed cup of coffee. Elena took a sip and closed her eyes in contentment. Now that's coffee. See? This is all I needed. No reality warping required. Thane was monitoring his scanner discreetly. The quantum fluctuations around Elena were stabilizing, settling into a low baseline hum. The coffee was working exactly as HFY had theorized, acting as an anchor, keeping her firmly in normal reality. Can I ask you something? He said quietly. Sure. If you knew, really knew, that you could change reality with your thoughts, would you? Elena considered this, taking another sip. Honestly? Probably not. I mean, maybe little things. Make my coffee always perfect temperature, never hit red lights, win the lottery. She smiled. But big things? That's too much responsibility. I like my life small and manageable. I make coffee, I read books, I take vacations. That's enough. That might be the most precursor thing you've said all day. What do you mean? They had infinite power and chose to walk away from it. You're telling me you'd do the same thing. Elena shrugged. Maybe that's what makes us human. Knowing when enough is enough. Across the galaxy, emergency broadcasts were going out. Transit systems updating protocols. Security scanners being recalibrated. The classification Precursor Heritage was being added to every database, with handling instructions that boiled down to treat them normally, but pay attention. On 17 worlds, xenoanthropologists were having simultaneous revelations about human behavior they documented over decades. The pieces were falling into place. Why humans explored death worlds for fun. Why human children were inexplicably resilient. Why human art and music had effects on other species that couldn't quite be explained. Why human food, especially coffee, had become so popular across the galaxy despite having no nutritional value for non-humans. Humans weren't just another species. They were living remnants of something ancient and powerful that had chosen to be ordinary. In the lounge, Elena had moved on to browsing through one of her romance novels, completely absorbed in a story about a space pirate and a station commander. Thane watched the scanner readings stay stable and calm. Normal. Except for the barely perceptible hum of potential that suggested this normal could become very abnormal very quickly if circumstances required. Hickson's words echoed in his mind. Perhaps they chose peace over power. Thane hoped humanity continued choosing peace. 2 hours later, Elena boarded her flight, thanked the crew cheerfully, and settled into her seat. Within minutes, she was asleep, her gentle snoring causing minor temporal fluctuations in the surrounding space that the ship's systems automatically compensated for. The universe adjusted itself around her presence. It always had. At Hub 794, Vex Nala was filing her incident report. In the section marked Resolution, she wrote, "Entity released. No threat detected. Recommend monitoring all human travelers. Not as security risk, but as insurance against accidentally discovering what they're truly capable of." She paused, then added, "Also recommend ensuring adequate coffee supplies at all human-accessible facilities. Appears to be critical for galactic stability." The report was flagged, copied, and distributed to every transit authority in known space. Humanity remained blissfully unaware that they'd just been reclassified as the galaxy's most carefully managed species. They continued exploring, working, creating, and drinking truly inadvisable amounts of coffee, and reality continued bending, just slightly, to accommodate them. Somewhere in the deep archives, Hickson updated the precursor files with a new entry. Precursors never left. They evolved into something that valued peace over dominion, coffee over conquest, and ordinary happiness over cosmic significance. Recommend non-interference. They seem happy this way. He marked the file. Case closed. Then added, monitor indefinitely, just in case.